people. My name is Tim Ulmer. I'm your host. Yes, I have epilepsy, and yes, I am a gangster. But unlike the epilepsy gangster, I've got someone who loves me. This is Sherlock. I love him more than anything, except better not tell my wife that. Epilepsy Gangster robs people of opportunities in relationships. He steals from people's food, their college, their retirements. And he kills people in their sleep or in auto accidents. Who could love that? But watch me and my gang as we show you people who have led happy and productive lives despite the intrusion of Epilepsy Gangster.
Ladies and gentlemen, we all love superheroes, and it always is marvelous when we see somebody like Peter Parker get bit or Dr. Strange have an auto accident and he can no longer be a microsurgeon anymore, and then these people become superheroes. Well, we're talking with a real-life superhero here tonight with 𝗪cie h𝗆𝗆. And Sue has got her own superhero who we'll talk about here, Epileptra. And to begin with, Sue, tell us how the Epilepsy Gangster came into your presence.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you so much for honoring me with the title of superhero. Hopefully it's an honor I can live up to. Let me see, how did the Epilepsy Gangster nab me? I will tell you, it came from out of the blue because I have no history of epilepsy in my family. I had no brain injury, as I'm sure a lot of you know. Epilepsy can stem from brain injury. I was just riding along as a passenger, thankfully, in the car with my daughter one day doing some shopping, and I had a grand mal seizure. And fortunately, my daughter kept her cool and was able to manage this situation, and that was the first seizure that I had. After the third time, I got diagnosed with epilepsy.
What was your reaction when the diagnosis was made?
It really turned my life upside down completely.
How so?
Well, I have to say for a long time, my life really revolved around figuring out how to control my seizures. And I probably went through 7 or 8 different combinations of different drugs before we finally found the one combination that worked for me. And that took a long, long time. It took years, in fact. And it also took a botched brain surgery, which ended up amounting to nothing. Fortunately, I have come to the right combination of meds. And I've been more than 2 years seizure-free. So, yay.
Bravo.
So it can happen. And I've come to learn, I'm not naturally a patient person, but I have come to learn that when you're dealing with chronic conditions, I think patience is very, very important. You have to hang in there. You have to keep on trying. You can't give up, although giving up is sometimes a very tempting thing to do.
Tell us what good has come from your epilepsy.
Epilepsy is probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me, which sounds really weird, I know. But if it wasn't for epilepsy, I don't think I would have ever come across what I really now believe to be, as corny as it sounds, my true life's calling. And that's to have discovered and have brought Epileptra to life. And Epileptra is the protagonist of the graphic novel series that I've created about a superhero who also has epilepsy, who turns her disability into, excuse me, a super ability. She is able to channel the errant electrical activity in her brain out into the world through her fingertips. That is her super ability.
I love it. What's this power do for her?
You know, she finds it quite by accident, actually. She finds it because her human character, whose name is Eden, is a 5th grade teacher and has a meeting with her principal. And he has a heart attack during the meeting. And she goes to shake him. and says, wake up, wake up. And lo and behold, little static and then little electricity and little lightning bolts come out of her fingertips. And she's like, what did I just do? Epileptra is really a pillar of positivity and empowerment. You know, she exists to let people know whether they have a disability or not. And in fact, 1 in 4 people are diagnosed with a disability in their lifetime. So it's much more common than people probably can believe. But Epileptra is there to tell us that no matter what we dislike about ourselves or what we're uncomfortable with, those things are secondary to what is on the inside of us. She and her brother are struck by lightning at a family Thanksgiving dinner. And that's one of the things the doctor who treated her in the hospital wasn't able to predict, that she would become a superhero after being struck by lightning, and she becomes Epileptra.
You have taken this series, though, to highlight other disabilities. Tell us what about some of the other characters and what your mission is.
Epileptra is really a pillar of positivity and empowerment. You know, she exists to let people know whether they have a disability or not. And in fact, 1 in 4 people are diagnosed with a disability in their lifetime. So it's much more common than people probably can believe. So many of us, most of us, have something that we don't want to have to deal with. Epileptra forms a team of superheroes, and the name of the team is 𝗪cie. And 𝗪cie is an acronym for support and empower everyone zealously. And of course, it's also sort of short for seizure, which Epileptra's mother, by the way, thinks is very cute and clever of her. And she forms this with her brother and a friend of theirs named 𝗪cie 𝗿𝗵𝗺, who happens to be very wealthy and funds the start of this group. The group is made up of other individuals who have disabilities, but are able to use their disabilities and transform them into super abilities. So among those are 𝗪cie, who has diabetes, and 𝗪cie is able to insulate herself and those that she's in contact with, like immediate contact with, from any outside forces such as fire, water, disease, weaponry. Then there's also 𝗪cie, who has autism, and he has something really cool called neuroplasticity. And what neuroplasticity is when he makes direct eye contact with another being, whether it's an animal or a human, he can rearrange the neurons in their brain to make their behavior different. CP, which is short for Chen Ping. He's a Chinese fellow who has cerebral palsy. And he actually can use his cane to shoot gamma rays through. And these are muscle freezing gamma rays. So he actually can take his cane and shoot muscle freezing gamma rays through it to stop anyone or anything in their tracks.
Sue, what one message would you have for anyone that's got epilepsy?
I would say, don't let epilepsy define who you are, and never give up on your dreams, because there is always a way to reach them. Never be afraid of asking for help. And don't be afraid of who you are. Be proud of who you are, and educate. Don't hesitate. Educate, because there are too many people out there who still believe in too many old wives' tales about epilepsy. Educate, and you'll be amazed. You'll be a superhero by virtue of how much you know that other people don't. So take that opportunity and get yourself out there and educate and pursue your dreams. Don't quit.
Very well said. I'm working in the Underworld, so fighting Epilepsy Gangster. in the worldly way, but I need to team up with 𝗪cie as things get working out and see what kind of a squash we can put on epilepsy to get working as a team.
I think that would be wonderful. I would love to do that.
Tim always knew the world was made of different people, the idea of serving others and loving the United States. Epilepsy made that difficult his entire life, particularly in keeping him out of the Navy. After several failures, the chance came to teach English in communist China. Going to the Chinese university, he was the first foreigner most had met, and he became their only American friend. Everyone discovered that people shouldn't base their friendships solely on nationalities.
I was glad to answer their questions because for the first time in my life, I saw that God had a mission for me. I became proud of my epilepsy, and I realized that I was serving on a mission for my country's image that was bigger than anything I'd imagined as a kid. At the same time, I was serving God.
Read the ebook, Involuntary Mission in China with a Thorn in the Flesh, to learn about Tim's struggles and discoveries. Ebook available on Amazon.
The Defeating Epilepsy Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping those battling epilepsy. We provide advocacy and educational services to those battling epilepsy at a global level. For more information about our projects and services, please visit our website at www.defeatingepilepsy.org or email us at info@defeatingepilepsy.org. Please like us on social media and follow us so you can see how we are making a difference. Thank you for your support, and together we will defeat epilepsy.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, when you're at home from disability, a lot of times the computer and the social media is the only source of camaraderie we have. I happen to be associated with a number of epilepsy chat rooms on Facebook, and there's one guy in particular who's always had a daily message that's being seen by thousands of people around the globe. Anyone that's enrolled in these rooms is seeing Danny Cohen's message, which he calls Keeping On. And I'd like to introduce to you my friend Danny Cohen from New York.
Hey everybody, how are you?
Well, Danny, why don't you start by telling us how Epilepsy Gangster came into your life?
I had developed epilepsy at age 10. I grew up with hydrocephalus and cerebral palsy. I'm 41. But then at age 10, I developed my first seizure. And then from there, my seizures were a lot worse when I was 10 years old, up until about, I want to say, 17 or 18 years old. And then into my 20s, they started to change again. I have focal epilepsy. I don't have grand mal. So they've changed throughout the years. I was a very depressed and anxious child. I was also a very depressed and anxious young adult. I didn't accept the life that I had. I didn't accept the disability. I didn't accept the fact that I have a neurological disability. So I didn't like the person that I was. And so when I was 32, I had actually wanted to end my life. I live here in Manhattan, so in 2012, I had actually gone down here at one of the subway stations, and I had almost jumped in front of a subway train. Thankfully, I didn't. There was so many different thoughts running through my head, but as the train started to approach, all I could remember at that point was hearing the train whistle and looking at the motorman. I can remember specifically his face. and jumping back from the train. And at that point, I'd gotten on the train, gotten home, and I had had a series of 7 seizures when I had gotten home. So I've never had a series of 7 seizures like that. I believe they were probably grand mal, but I had woken up a few hours later. I didn't know how it happened or what had happened. But throughout the year of 2012, I was on a healing journey.
Following those seizures, how did you go about starting over?
Throughout that year, I had found out that I was then going to be a candidate for the seizure surgery. So I wanted to really then make a change for myself. I wanted to be grateful. I wanted to start loving myself. I wanted to really accept the situation that I was going through and what I'll continue to go through. So 2012 was the beginning of the healing journey for me. And I started to read up on a bunch of books and read up on different gratitude practices and really start to, fulfill all these things and to do everything in my power to start loving who I was and accepting who I was at that point. I really needed to make that change because I didn't want to go back to where I was. Because I knew if I were to go back to where I was, I probably would have not be here today.
I would assume that you had your floundering moments. When you get discouraged at your new life, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What kept you going? What kept bringing you back?
Just that. I didn't want to be back in that space anymore. I didn't want to live that type of life anymore, and I didn't want to feel that way anymore.
It seems to me that you've discovered there was a purpose for having your having epilepsy.
Yeah, right.
What's that?
Well, everyone has their purpose. My purpose is to help other people. And, I say this now, especially after 2013, when I did have the seizure surgeries, and I found out that those surgeries were unsuccessful, but they were actually the most successful surgeries I've ever had. And they had made me more grateful, to see my life as it is now. So it now allows me to convey that message to other people that while you're living with a seizure disorder and it's uncontrollable and you're going to be having this thing for the rest of your life, that you can get through it.
We have examples here of the keeping on recordings that you put online every day. And when did you start doing keeping on?
I started doing that probably in early 2000, I would say early 2013, possibly just after I had gotten out of the hospital.
What kind of responses have you gotten from people?
All different types of responses, whether they have epilepsy or not. I always get the response from people who are dealing with epilepsy, whether they're dealing with anxiety, depression, lost hope. I get responses from people that are, just that they're grateful for just having a chance to watch the video.
You help other people with epilepsy in a different way. Please tell us about that.
And I am a gratitude coach, and I do help women ages 30 to 50 who are struggling with low self-esteem and self-confidence. And I help them move through that by developing a strong background and foundation through gratitude and self-acceptance and self-love.
Why is it so important to you to be a coach?
When I'm able to coach other people who are going through their problems, going through their struggles, and then I'm able to reach those people, it makes me feel very good when I'm able to help them through their challenge.
You've also written a book. Would you please tell us about that and what the title is?
The book is something that I had written back when I was in the hospital in 2013, and those were promises. I had written a promise to myself after I found out the surgery was unsuccessful, and it was a promise to be grateful. I wrote myself that promise. I promised to be grateful. And then as I had written that first promise, I then wrote a second promise, which is I promised to be happy. And then it was one promise led to a second promise, led to a third promise. 31 days, I started to feel a difference in myself. In 2017, I decided to publish those promises into a book called Keep On Keeping On, 31 Days, 31 Promises to Bring More Passion, Hope, and Love into Your Life.
What's your blog?
The blog is 𝗪iciesYouKeep.com. And at The Promises You Keep, it's mainly inspirational posts, also posts that have tips and tools that you could use for becoming more grateful or more accepting.
Danny, what percentage of people do you think are living with epilepsy that can't forgive themselves for being disabled?
I would say about half. That's my own personal opinion. Those people, unfortunately, they end up living in darkness. And that's where I once was. I lived in a very dark and dismal place when I didn't forgive myself and when I didn't accept myself.
Danny, what one message would you like to leave people with?
You woke up today, you're breathing, you're moving, whatever movement you have in your body right now, at least it's movement. There are people today that haven't any movement at all. And there are people that didn't even get a chance to wake up today. Just the fact that you have a nose, 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a mouth. And so you can speak, and you can listen, and you can see, and you can smell. Just the fact that you can do all that, and even if you can touch, is something to be grateful for.
You're a big man, Danny Cohen.
Thank you very much. Life is not always perfect, but it is what you make of it. So make it count. Be grateful for this day. Allow yourself to smile. Accept all that it is. Take a deep breath in. Let it out. Put your hand on your heart. Ask yourself, what am I grateful for today? And move forward. Keep on keeping on. Have a great day, everybody.
I want you to know that you are not alone.
And I was scared to go home because I didn't know what to expect at home. And I knew we had stairs everywhere at home to get in the house, both sides of the house. And granted, after that, I was good, but just getting in the house and
what I wish I would have done for the last 30 years. And that is to let people know how much I struggle, how much help I needed, because I didn't get any help. So I wish I would have done that instead of keeping secret about it.
Well, Ron and I were very fortunate to find a support group right off the bat. And I have to say it was the most uplifting thing that we could have possibly done.
Hi, I am Natalie Beavers, and I am one of the many survivors living with epilepsy. My life has been filled with many ups and downs. It's just a part of life. I am proud of the person that I am becoming, and as I stand in the face of this relentless disorder called epilepsy, I want you all to know that I am me.
It would be until doctors linked the beginning of a man's epilepsy to when he had a traffic accident in a pickup truck while working on his family's dairy farm at the age of 15. There hadn't been any complications, and he would become the student body president at Loyola University in Los Angeles. When President Kennedy was assassinated, he decided that he wanted to dedicate his life to helping people which would mean becoming a priest. That's when epilepsy impacted his life. A doctor, during a routine physical exam that was required by the Catholic Church, officially diagnosed his epilepsy. But a 1600-year-old amendment to canon law that declared his epilepsy meant that he was possessed by the devil, he was not allowed to continue with his ambition. This man turned his skills toward politics and quickly became the staff director of Congressman 𝗪𝗛, who was a leader on agricultural policy. After his own election to the United States House of Representatives, he helped develop the rules that opened congressional activities to Americans when C-SPAN began. Colleagues elected him the Democratic Party whip in the House of Representatives. During those years, a reporter asked him about whether he would be embarrassed to have a seizure during one of his frequent visits to the White House. His answer was, "I served as a staff person for 13 years, and I've known a lot of people who have gone to the White House and had fits. At least I would have an excuse." Being motivated by his own challenges with epilepsy, he is acknowledged as being the lead sponsor of Americans with Disabilities Act, which President George H. Bush signed into law in 1994. Now retired, he gives an annual lecture about disability policy in employment law at the New York Law School. This epileptic survivor is Congressman Tony Cohello.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a pretty impressive gang, wasn't it? If you'll excuse me, Sherlock needs to go out. And so, Epilepsy Gangster, give it up and get somebody who loves you. And for the rest of you, may you be seizure-free when we meet again, and God bless you. Come on, boy.